Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, cryptids, comics, and the start of the Read What You Own challenge. It's my weekly wrap-up. So, quite a few books to talk to you about today. I've got a nice little stack in front of me here. Some of these are comics though, rather than books. And the books range from being really quite short books to a very, very long book. So a variety of things to talk to you about. So I'll do the normal kind of thing for this video, go through what I've read, talk about what I'm reading at the moment, and also talk about what's been on the channel and what's coming up on the channel. Before I start though, let's do a quick moustache update. So I have been doing daily videos, daily shorts videos on this, but failed to get one up yesterday because I just was too busy. But yes, so my moustache, so if you've missed my videos on it, I shaved off my beard and moustache for Movember. Movember being an annual event where people grow moustaches in order to raise money and awareness for mental health charities, particularly suicide prevention and male cancers. So yes, so this is, where are we now? So it's the 11th today. So this is 11 days of growth. So it's far from a full and impressive moustache yet, but it's definitely coming on. I'm quite pleased with it. There'll be a link in the description to the video to my Movember page should you want to sponsor me. Absolutely no obligation, of course, but if you can, that would be wonderful. So let's talk books. Oh, before books, actually. So obviously this week also marks the start, for me at least, of the Read What You Own challenge. So a now annual event, which I started a couple of years ago, where people read books they already own rather than buying new books. And it's been fantastic to see so many people involved and engaged on it this year. So the first year when I started it, when my channel was much smaller, it was wonderful to see other booktubers get involved. And last year, that grew a bit, but this year it feels like it's grown quite a lot. I'm seeing I'm getting tagged in loads and loads of videos from people who are taking part in it. I'm trying to watch those videos and comment on them, but there are quite a few of them, so I certainly haven't managed to watch all of them yet by any means. But if you are watching this and you are taking part, I think that's absolutely wonderful. So thanks for being part of it, and hopefully you get as much out of it this year as I do, and as I have in previous years. I've always found it an interesting and enjoyable thing to do, and far less onerous than it sounds. Right, so let's start talking about books. So the first thing I finished this week was what I was reading when I filmed this last week, and that is Wolves of the Calla by Stephen King, book 5 of the Dark Tower series. So as I think I said last week, this book is very long and there's a big section in the middle which I didn't love and which doesn't necessarily feel like it even belongs in the same book. It's like a big backstory bit that could have been a separate book almost. You kind of don't have to read it to appreciate the rest of the story, in my opinion anyway. So that was kind of a bit of a digression, but you can't be a Stephen King fan and not enjoy or sometimes put up with his kind of diversions from his core plot. And then in the final part of the book, and I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to spoil it, but people who have read it will know, it kind of takes a bit of a different direction. And it's a bit of a different direction that has definitely been hinted at in the books prior to this, but which he goes full in on it in this, and I'm still not sure about that direction. So we'll see what I make of it when I continue. I'm definitely going to finish the series. I've only got another 3 books if you include The Wind Through the Keyhole. So I've got another 3 books to read, and I'm definitely enjoying it, but it definitely feels somewhat self-indulgent, shall we say, from King. So I read that, and then as advertised last week, if you watch this, I said on the Sunday what I wanted to do was was not start any new books. So I was starting my Read What You Own challenge, which started on the Monday, completely fresh. So I read a bunch of comics instead, and I had a really, really good time. So I read a bunch of issues of this Commando comic. So if you don't know, Commando comic is a long-running British war comic, started I think in the 60s. It's like just one complete story every well, it's not even every week. They currently publish 4 issues a fortnight. And they're a lovely size. They're a very pleasant size to read. So yeah, I read a bunch of these. Well, however many that many is, 6. Yeah, 6 of these last Sunday. Really, really enjoyed them. And these ones are quite interesting in that Commando, in my mind at least, was tended to be a fairly like straightforward war comic, with stories set in the Second World War. But this, some of these are like horror tinged ones as well, with supernatural elements, which I really enjoyed. So I had a really good time with these. And what they're doing at the moment, the publishers, is they publish a mixture of new stories. So this one, Dawn of the Gorgons, which was really fun, and this one, Beneath, which was also really good, were new stories, but they also are doing reprints of some of the classic stories. So I had a really good time with that. Then also read, in the end, 7 volumes of Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshimi. So I read these 4 physical volumes, which are the latest 4 that have been published in English. So the series has now finished in Japan, so it runs 17 volumes in total. So I read my physical editions of the next 4 volumes that I had to read, and then read like fan translations online of the final 3 volumes, and I've got those pre-ordered. Well, I've got volumes 15 and 16 are pre-ordered. Volume 17 isn't even available for pre-order in English yet, so I will buy them, but I just couldn't, knowing that the story was out there and I could finish it, I could not finish it, if that makes sense. So a really fantastic series, really disturbing, about this kind of messed up relationship between a boy and his mum. She suffers from a lot of mental health problems, and that informs her parenting, shall we say. So very disturbing series at times, and it went, I thought, in a really interesting and quite moving direction in the end. So I thought the series was really excellent. I am intending to do a full review of it, which may be up this week. And then also read a screenplay, which is very unusual for me. So this was by a fellow booktuber, Anne, from the channel Anne Novella, and it was really wonderful. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not something that's available to go out and buy, because Anne is trying to get it sold and produced, but it was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. A very interesting, thought-provoking, amusing and moving story. So yeah, really enjoyed that too, and something a bit different for my Sunday. So then moved into the Read What You Own challenge on the Monday, and managed on the Monday, having quite a lot of train time on Monday, because I was working in London, to read 2 books, which might seem excessive, but they were both quite small and quite easy reads. So, and both were rereads as well, actually. So the first of those was The Outsiders by SE Hinton, which I have in this very cheesy movie tie-in edition, which is just great. It's a great story. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much as I did the first time I read it, but I still thought it was really good. So a story of a kind of group of juvenile delinquents in the US in the 60s, particularly the main character, who's called Pageboy. And it's gripping, it's moving, it's funny at times. It's just a really great kind of story of teenage rebellion. So really enjoyed that. And then read a book that I first read when I was very much younger than I am now. So I think I probably read this when I was about 15. It's Relics by Shaun, which is just a gloriously over-the-top, very graphic, so just full of sex and violence. So definitely appealed to me as a teenager. Story about these kind of ancient relics that get unearthed, and this demon that may or may not be coming back to destroy the world, and a serial killer going around murdering people. All sorts of stuff going on in this book. Super over the top, super cheesy. But there's something about Shaun Hutson's writing, as basic as it can be at times, that I've always really, really enjoyed. And the reread of this was a great deal of fun for me. So those are the physical books I've read, and I should say these 2 I read for Andrew from the channel It Came From The Page, his Patreon reading reading event this month he's running, which is about like movie novelisations and tie-ins and things like that. So I really enjoyed both of those, and then read for the Cryptid readathon that is taking place this month, which is being run by Jason from the channel Jason's Weird Reads, Sin from Sin's Book Nook, and Crystal from Fibre Artsy. So I read 2 cryptid books for that. So I read Bigfoot Stomp by Erik Williams, which is a Basically, it's like Cocaine Bear, but with Bigfoot and meth. Is like the kind of tagline you could give it. So it was fun, but I didn't love it. It did have some good characters. There's a mixture of kind of police officers and drug dealers and other locals who get kind of caught up in what's going on. But it also had a lot of kind of slightly unpleasant sex in it. Which I didn't particularly enjoy. I would have enjoyed more Bigfoot smashing stuff and less slightly unpleasant sex. But it was a decent and enjoyable reading, quite amusing at times, and some of the characters, as I say, were really quite well done. So yeah, that was pretty okay. I then read The Haunted Forest Tour by James A. Moore and Jeff Strand, which I slightly preferred. So this is a book where this kind of weird haunted forest has just sprung up out of nowhere and is populated by all sorts of weird kind of mythical creatures and cryptids and things like that. And this company runs like coach tours through the haunted forest. See if you can figure out what goes wrong. So basically these two coaches get stranded in the forest and the people have to escape. So it was as fun as that concept sounds. It was really, really entertaining. It's a slight book. There's not a great deal of depth here. But there was a ton of action, a fair amount of gore, and it was entertaining and amusing. Like genuinely funny at times, but also just propulsively, gripping and action packed. So yeah, had a good time with that too. So that's what I have read. In terms of what I'm currently reading, so I'm currently reading on my Kindle The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston LeRoux, so the classic horror novel. So I'm reading this as a buddy read with one of my patrons, Ida. So I do a buddy read every month with a patron. This was Ida's pick for that, so the patrons get to choose what we read. This is really good. So I'm almost halfway through. And it is it's entertaining, it's dark, it's kind of lighter and easier reading, I guess, than I expected. And there's a lot of stuff just about kind of the inner workings of the theatre and things like that, and the different people who work in the theatre. So that's all quite interesting. And the character of the Phantom, who's not referred to as the Phantom at all, he's called the opera ghost in the book, or he hasn't been referred to as the Phantom yet anyway, is intriguing, and his relationship with this female singer is fun to read as well. And also you've kind of got this love triangle going on because there's this guy who's in love with her as well. So it's an interesting and enjoyable read so far, and enjoyably ornate is the wrong word, because the language is reasonably, in this translation at least, is reasonably straightforward, but it's got kind of an opulence to it because of that opera house setting. So yeah, having a lot of fun with that. And then also just started again for the novelisation November event, Patreon event that Andrew's running, Alien the Cold Forge by Alex White, which I've only read like 30 pages of, but I'm really enjoying it so far. So I've read a few. I think this is the third Alien like tie-in novel I've read rather than a novelisation, and this so far is definitely the best written. So I can't really tell you what it's about yet, but it's got some really interesting concepts that kind of develop on the setting of the Alien universe. Andrew rates this really highly, and when I went to log it on Goodreads, I saw a bunch of other people that I've met through book reviewing and things like that over the years, and given it really good ratings as well. So I'm definitely enjoying it so far, and aiming to kind of crack on with this weekend, and get as much of it read as I can, and maybe even finish it. It's 430 pages, so I think I can do that over the next couple of days. Then I'm also listening to, as an audiobook, Pageboy by Elliot Page. So Elliot Page's memoir about working in the movie industry as a young person, and also his identity as a trans man. Really, really enjoying it so far. So some people I've heard criticise it for jumping about a fair bit in terms of the time. It doesn't lay things out in a linear fashion, but I'm actually quite enjoying that style of storytelling. I think it's quite effective, and so it means that the progression of the narrative is more about kind of themes that have come up in Page's life rather than being a chronological style of doing things. But I'm definitely enjoying it so far. It's well written. It can feel maybe a little bit like he's trying a little bit too hard at times, But I am finding it really, I'm finding it really interesting, and I certainly think it's better written than the Britney Spears memoir that I talked about last week. So yeah, enjoying that a fair bit so far. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. In terms of what I'm going to read next, I'm not really sure. I've got a load of stuff here next to me. I've also got a stack of things that I can draw from for the Read What You Own challenge. So I may pick a couple of short things to read for that as well. So I've read 4 books so far for my Read What You Own challenge out of my target of 100, so I'm 4% of the way through. But clearly I've got 3 things on the go and expect to finish 1 or 2 of those this weekend. So I'm doing not quite as well as I'd like to so far, but doing pretty well. My aim is still, and it's an ambitious aim, to try and finish it by the end of January. So I definitely need to be reading more quickly, or more books anyway, not necessarily more quickly, to achieve that goal. So we will see how I do. Right, in terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week you've had reviews of From a Pure Gate by Stephen King, which I enjoyed more than I expected to. The book, not the review. You can give me your own opinion of the review in the comments. I did the I can't remember what it's called, but a tag about what it's like doing BookTube, basically, that was created by Shelley Swearingen, which I really enjoyed doing. I did my final book haul video before the start of the Read What You Own challenge. And I did my October wrap up as well as doing one of my Wednesday Myrtle videos, which not many people watch, but the people who do watch them enjoy them. So Myrtle is this kind of logic puzzle thing that's based around kind of murder mysteries. So I've really enjoyed doing those. I'm going to film some more of those today. So yes, that's what has been on the channel. In terms of what's coming up on the channel, I'm going to do an update on the Garbology anthology that I'm publishing with Troy Tradup. I'm going to do I think I'm going to do a Kindle review, so a video comparing the 4 different Kindles that you can currently buy from Amazon. I'm probably going to do my full review of Blood on the Tracks, and I'm also doing my top 10 physical books that I aim to read during the Read What You Own challenge. So that's the kind of thing that's going to be on the channel in the week ahead. So let's leave it there for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know in the comments what you've been reading. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.